come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Good morning, one and all. You all had me worried there for a little bit. I don't know whether the post went out a bit late there, but I was sat here with the intro almost over and there was nobody here. But good morning to Dan Cullen, who says howdy. Good morning to Gary Muirhead, who says good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Good morning, everyone. Chris Ford, Poets Day. Yes, Poets Day today, and aren't we all grateful for it? It's touch and go for a while, but we did make it all the way to Friday. Mark Whiting has just joined us as well. I'm sure others will be along momentarily. Thanks to you lot and our discussions on yesterday's show, I now have an unformed story in my head, and I'm going to share it with you now in an attempt basically to get it out of my head. Good morning, Jim Turner. So you know how the manufacturers like Caterpillar like to talk about cost per ton rather than the actual purchase price of a machine? I realise it's a bit of smoke and mirrors to overcome the fact that Caterpillar is really the cheapest on the market, but it also makes sense. If you gather together all of the costs of owning and operating a machine, purchase price, maintenance, wear and replacement parts, fuel, insurance, operator wages, and the like, and then divide it all by your average tonnage, you know precisely what that machine is going to produce and going to cost to produce a single ton. You have all the facts, in other words. Or do you? You see, on yesterday's show, and some of our previous shows as well, actually, some have highlighted some unspoken truths from within the field of equipment ownership and operation. On yesterday's show, for example, we spoke about the possible impact of joysticks on the wrists of some operators. I realise there was a bit of a discussion about it, but there were concerns about that. We've also spoken in the past about getting in and out of machines and the stress this places on knees, on hips and on spines. And then there's the issue of being constantly under the cosh, working against the clock, constantly being changed for productivity. Now, every one of those considerations could lead to lost time through sickness, but are those things being factored into the cost per ton calculations? Companies know, as an example, that easing up on engine revs might add to their bottom line, save a bit of fuel. But would they be willing to install a more comfortable seat to ensure their operator, their key operator possibly, isn't laid up with a bad back? Companies actively shop around to save money on tracks and on tyres. Would they do the same to find a machine that is easier to get in and out of to protect the long-term health of their operators' knees? Companies also actively study faster and more economic ways of doing things, but are they considering the impact this might place on the mental health of their operators? Every day off for work-induced physical and mental injury costs companies money. So are they factoring that into their cost per ton calculations? As I said, this is not a fully formed discussion. It set me thinking. I wanted it out of my head. But if you've got any more comments or input on the potential cost of operators being, and I'm not even talking about injured in terms of accidents, I'm talking about long term. So wrist strain, eye strain if you're struggling with your screens in your cab, back problems, leg problems, mobility problems. If you've got anything you'd like to discuss on all of that, I'd love to hear from you because I am trying to get it all clarified in my head. Good morning to Gaz Evans, and Jim Turner says there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And I'd like to add there's some journalism that adds to that list as well. Right, people, it is time to roll the intro. I think it is time to roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this thing that I claim to be a show on the road. Here we go. It is. You've seen the question of the day. My screen says it is Friday the 17th of April. It is not. It is Friday, the 17th of May. I will update that in just a moment. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the vile walrus of demolition, apparently. In today's show, Volvo has unveiled its latest generation wheel loaders, but do you judge them to be hot or not? Liebherr raises the bar for oil rig demolition, why Hyundai is crushing it, and we're going to be taking a look around a monster cat 988 wheel loader, the latest iteration thereof. Plus, we'll be heading back to Intermat 2024 to find out all about the Open S Alliance. Yes, we will. But before we get to that, there is a small matter of today's mystery machine to decipher. So let me find the appropriate animation, because that's how we do it. Good morning to Earl Fallon over on Instagram. Good morning also to Garvin at Mostly Diggers as well. Good to see you gentlemen here. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, I've been trying to fool you with older machines. Excuse me, I've got a piece of beard in my mouth. I do apologise. Yeah, I've been trying to fool you with older machines. Not doing that today. Instead, we've got a picture of a machine that you may, I think most of you will know, but I'm hoping the fact that the photograph has been taken not from the cab side, so there's no real clues there, and it's got a very specific paint job as well. Now, if you've seen this machine before, you will identify it instantly. If you haven't, I'm not sure you will. So this is what you have to work with. If you have any clues on that, love to hear from you. I'm going to take that away for just a moment, because we do have comment here from Mr. Jim Turner. Employ subbies. If they moan too much, they're easier to get shut off. I'm not saying it's not tiring or stressful at times. Being sat on your ass in a machine is an easy job nowadays, so folks should get on with it or get out of the seat. I take what you're saying, Jim, and I wouldn't necessarily argue with that. I am concerned that I'm coming across as a bit of a snowflake here, but, you know, I think the passage of time has changed the way in which we perceive these things. So there was a time when demolition sites used to kill people on a fairly regular basis. They do it much less now. So we now have other things to worry about. Whereas we used to be worried about people dying, we now have concerns about them getting bits of dirt in their eye or cutting their fingers and stuff. I realise, you know, when you're balancing the two, a death compared to getting rid of dirt in your eye, they're not even comparable. But those are the cards that we're playing with now. You know, we've done a pretty good job of minimizing deaths. So now our focus is on other bits and pieces. And going back to this contention of the actual cost of the health and well-being of your operator, think about it like this. You've got seats to protect the operator from vibration and bumps in the site. You've also got vibration isolated cabs and that kind of thing, all of which is for operator comfort. You've got things like ROPS and FOPS cabs to protect them from rolling over or something falling on their noggin from above. So you're doing all of that. You're doing all of those safeguards. Surely the next area to worry about is those less obvious things like strain on knees, strain on back, stress. Just saying. Now, while I've been doing that, we have had some. I'm going to start the show in just a moment, and I'm going to remind you of our question of the day as well. But I am going to get rid of that because we've had some guesses on our mystery machine. Jim Turner says, is it a Volvo 140? It is not. Dan Cullen says, is it a Cabelco 210-7? It is not. Peter McKenna, good morning, Peter, says a Volvo EX90. It's not one of those either. Let me show you again. Oh, let me put it back on the thing. There you are. You've got a little bit more to work with there. Any thoughts on that? I'd love to hear from you. While you're worrying about that, let me very quickly, as I promised, remind you of our question of the day. Yeah. What has made you smile recently? This is another question from our resident quizmaster, Mr. Gary Muirhead. Question is quite simply, what has made you smile recently? As you'll know, I am dead inside, so I'm not really given to smiling very much. However, I smiled pretty much the whole time I was in Italy. I smiled yesterday playing with the grandchildren, and I smiled even more broadly last night when I blocked a certain someone over on LinkedIn. The guy hounded me for a decade. Literally tried to drive me out of business, and now he wants to be all pally-pally. Took enormous delight in hitting the block button. But what about you? What has made you smile recently? Was it a person, an incident, a realization, possibly a live stream show on weekday mornings? Love to hear from you. We'll get back to that in the chat. Let's have a look. More guesses on our mystery machine. Let me show you what it looks like. Dan has gone for the JCB 220X. It is not. Peter McKenna has gone for the Volvo EC550E. It is not. It is not a Volvo. I'll tell you that much. It is not a Volvo. But if you stick around, Volvo will be along in just a moment. So let me get rid of that. Let me press that and do this. I will get back to Dan Cullen's comment at the end of the show, but I do want to throw this one up from Gary Muirhead. I think Hydromec have got cab comfort down to a T with their Opera cab. They have. They have. It's a very good cab. I've been in it. It's splendid. But I've been in it sat on the ground. Not sure I've ever actually been in it in a machine. So it looks good. They've certainly ticked all the boxes. What's it like for getting in and out of? What's it like for, long-term comfort for your back and your legs? Is everything where it needs to be, or are your wrists constantly under strain? Are your eyes under strain because of where they've got the in-cab, almost said the in-cab entertainment, the in-cab displays? Have they thought of all of that? If anyone would like to update us on that, I'd love to hear from you. Chris Ford has suggested that our mystery machine is a Hitachi Zaxxas 210. It is not. I can tell you it is not a Hitachi at all. Not at all. Now, people, it is time to break out your judge's robes, because I need to make a very, very important decision. Northern Rivers Demolition just joined us. I don't know where Northern Rivers Demolition are, but good morning to you. Yes, judging time. I'm about to show you the very latest wheel loaders from Volvo, and I need you to decide whether you believe them to be hot or not. And please don't let the fact that I'm going to be face-to-face with Volvo in just a couple of weeks' time influence your decision in any way. Although, if you would like to say some positive things, it might be helpful. Here we go. Yeah, personally, I was sold the moment I saw the words new Volvo wheel loaders, which just goes to show my confidence in the brand. But what are you all saying? Dan Cullen has come back immediately with, now that's tidy, scorching El Paso hot. properly hot. Gary Muirhead is going for hot as well. Demo Darth, who's just joined us, Andy Darvell has just joined us and says, nice little Volvo shovel. Jim Turner says, the port axles are good, keep the props and linkage well up out the shite, which is precisely where you want them, out of the shite, unlike me, who seems to spend most of his time in it. So I think so far we are agreeing that those are hot, so they will be going forward unless anybody comes back with anything contradictory to say. They will be going forward to our grand final later in the year. Chris Ford didn't make me want to go and buy one. What would, Chris? All joking aside, what would make you go and buy a Volvo wheel loader? Ken Hatcher, the hardest man in the world to convince, says cold, but I think he's still outvoted. But if anybody else has got any more comments on the new Volvo wheel loaders, I'd love to hear from you. Speaking of loving to hear from you, this is what you're working with for our mystery machine today. I can tell you that that's where we left it, with Chris Ford going for the Zaxis 210. It is not. Cabelco SK75-7, says Peter McKenna. No. Cabelco SK210, says Peter McKenna. No. It is none of those things. However, I can tell you the closest yet, close-ish, is Mr. Muirhead, who's gone for the Cat 375 ME. It's not, but you're kind of headed in the right direction. So let me show you a little bit more. There you are. That's a bit more of our mystery machine for today. If you've got any clues on that, please let us know. I'd be surprised if anyone got it from that, but you lot impress me every single day with this. So please let us have your thoughts, and we'll be right back. I'm going to take that away for now because I need to press this widget here.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Our next film is short. In my opinion, way too short, but it's very good and it opens up a debate that I've been having for a decade or more. In my opinion, high-reach demolition excavators are a compromise. We've taken a machine that was designed to dig downwards and we've reconfigured it to work upwards. By and large, that's been fine. But the demolition of retired offshore oil and gas rigs presents us with an entirely new challenge. Unlike buildings on land, these rigs are awkward, not generally a uniform shape. They require a different approach. And as you're about to see, Liebherr, no great surprise, has developed just such an approach. Yeah, I sincerely hope they're working on a longer version of that because I could watch that for hours. Everybody's picked up on my clues, Gary Muirhead's clues on the mystery machine. So Gary originally went for, when I can find it, he went for the Cat 395, which we know it's not. Dan Cullen's gone for the Cat 312E. It is not. Peter McKenna's gone for the 315 from Cat. It is not. Peter McKenna has gone for the Cat 325. It is not. Andy Dalvell says, I reckon the mystery machine is a zero tail swing machine. What model it is, I'm not yet sure. Okay, this I think refers back to our Volvo discussions. Chris Ford says, don't get me wrong, it would be a nice machine to drive, but there again, so are most other brands. It's very true. Very true. Chris Ford has also gone for the Cat 336. You're all very, very close, but you're not quite there yet. Let's show you a bit more. Dan Cullen has just popped in with the Cat 315 GCT3. No, it is not that. But you, as I say, you're not very far away. Now, shall we crack on? I think we probably should, because I'm sure you've all got weekends to get to in the not too distant future. So let's have a smidge of this. I love how this bit of the show works. So when we first show you the first frame of our mystery machine, with a few notable exceptions, but when we normally show it, it's, let me study that for a little bit. And could that be a Hyundai? Could that be a Daewoo? I'm really not sure. And then once you all start to home in on the fact that you know what manufacturer it is, then all hell breaks loose, because we've got Chris Ford saying it's a Cat 336. It's not. There is Dan Cullen saying the 315. It is not. Gary Muirhead going for the 345. Chris Ford going for the 352. Dan Cullen going for the 317, and Dan also going for the 320 GC. All very close, but you're not there yet. So keep the guesses coming in. Yes, we're going to be taking a closer look at the latest iteration of the Monster Cat 988 wheel loader in just a moment. But first, we're going to look at a Hyundai customer that is absolutely crushing it.
Doing what we do down here, we do need something that will do a bit of everything. So we do pecking, munching, digging, feeding, crushers, screeners, etc. And this machine ticks all those boxes absolutely perfectly. It's durable and it does exactly what we need. I'm Sam Collis, I'm director here at Castle Crushers, and I'm here with our new 22-ton Hyundai excavator. When we looked to replace our old machine, we looked around the market and we chose Hyundai because we liked what they were selling, and we wanted something that was future-proof, durable, and it hit all the boxes that we needed to. Obviously, coming with the Stage 5 Cummins engine, it means that we're future-proof and we can get on and off of any site that we need to do. As a company, we're looking to reduce emissions overall, and picking the Stage 5 engine in the Hyundai has obviously enabled us to do that. Due to the work that we do, the operator does need a variety of attachments, so we use munchers, peckers, buckets, obviously the double-acting hammer lines and everything else out with that. Which does enable us to do everything that we need to do. So obviously we've got this machine which is keeping the operator happy, which is an hard thing to do.
It's a good environment to be in on a hot day. It's got good air conditioning, the seat's perfect, nice air seat, everything responds properly.
It's got a great heater which will keep him warm in the winter, a good aircon that will keep him cool in the summer, a great radio and a nice cab to be sat in all day. So in that respect everyone's happy. Obviously, safety is paramount in a business that uses big machinery like we do. So the Hyundai is obviously equipped with a 360-degree camera, which enables the operator to have a view all the way around the machine.
Yeah, it's got a good camera system on. It's got 360 degrees. You can put in whichever part you want to see when you're going. Saves you running into stuff, backing, reversing into stuff. It's good for when you've got pedestrians wandering about on a site. You can see where they are.
He's also got the low-down glass, so he can see things that are in the immediate vicinity where he's working, and he's got the bars, the demo bars on the screen and the bars on the back, so it makes it perfect for any operator.
Glass panel in the door, it's a good feature. When you're high up on a pile you can see down the side, whereas a lot of other diggers don't have them.
So as we know in this industry, having big expensive machines, having downtime is, it's very costly to any business. That's why we went for the Hyundai. So far it's been absolutely 100% perfect, and we do know for a fact that if anything does happen, that we'll have perfect backup from Taylor and Braithwaite. In crushing and screening and demolition, you do need a machine that's built to last, and obviously with the extra guards, etc., and Hyundai's good reputation, we're happy with our choice.
Building a comfortable tomorrow.
Building a comfortable tomorrow. Right, go back to the mystery machine. I can tell you, none of you have got it yet. I mean, you've basically named almost the entire range of Caterpillar excavators. You've gone from, let me see, the 336, no. 315, no. 345, no. 352, no. 317, no. 320, no. 323, no. 325, no. 325 F0 swing, no. 330, no. 365, no. 336, no. 345, no. 340. Bloody hell's bells. I didn't even know they made this many. 340 GC, it is not. 352, it is not. 330, no. 325, no. 315, no. 330 again, no. 374, oh no. It is none of those things. I think you've missed one model in the entire Caterpillar excavator range. Let me show you a bit more. I'll tell you what, because you're struggling a bit, there you are, there's even more. There is, believe it or not, there is another Caterpillar model out there that you haven't named. Really. I'll prove it to you in just a moment. Let me take that away because we do need to crack on. And speaking of Caterpillar, they're up next. So stick around.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Chris Ford has just said, not seen the Cat 340 or 349. Doesn't matter. It's none of those. Not the Cat 395, not the 309, not the 319, not the 308, not the 321. I promise you I haven't invented this. I really haven't. Andy Darvell, the Cat 3 something. Yeah, I just need a bit more specific than that. Now, I did promise you I was going to show you around the brand new Cat 988. Well, I mean, I say it's the new Cat 988, but this is just the latest iteration of what many would regard as one of the industry's mainstay machines, which is why I'm delighted to show you the very, very latest version of the Cat 988. I've been in one of those. Not that version, but a former model. I have to tell you, it's one of the best machines I've ever had the good fortune to climb aboard. And as Dan Collins just said, now that is a shovel. Yes, it is indeed. Now, we've only got one more film left, and I've got a funny feeling I might actually get this Caterpillar machine past you. We've even got people going for what looks like a half number. Is it a 320 GC? It's not. Is it a 352 UHD? It is not. And Peter McKenna, is it a 307.5? I realise that is a real machine, but it does sound like he's going half measures. Andy Dalvell's gone for the 327. So close. The 326? No. 335? No. 329? No. 321? No. And Dan Cullen just gave up. Now, let me just take it off and let me make sure if I can show you. I can actually show you a bit more. There you are. Not that that helps in any way, shape or form. You're all on the right track. Everybody knows precisely what it is. Just haven't had the right model number yet. It's probably... Somebody's finally got it. It is that. Andy Darvell has got it. It is absolutely a Cat 328. It does have a pretty fancy paint job on it, but there you are. There it is in all its glory. Cat 328. You can stop guessing now. Gary Muirhead's gone for the 322, but that did come in at the same time. Andy Darvell, Cat 328. You're absolutely right. And he's also gone for the Cat 326. Stop guessing. Stop digging the hole. quite literally, given it is an excavator. You've got it right. It is indeed the Cat 328. Andy Dalvell, congratulations. You now have the admiration of all your peers and I think some relief among the crowd as well. That was a complete guess. Didn't even know they made that model. They do. They absolutely do. And there is Gary Muirhead bowing in recognition of your expertise. Even though it was a guess. Well done, Andy. Yes, well done, Andy, indeed. We're going to be going back to France in a moment. So let me take that off the screen and let me press this. Yeah, I think our friend Garvin over on Mostly Diggers on Instagram has just summed up the feelings of everyone. I forgot there was a 328. So did I. I found that photograph first thing this morning and thought, I wonder, I might be able to get that by them. I didn't. Andy Dalvell came to everybody's rescue. Now, it is time for our final film of the week and the final film of today's show. I'm going to be heading back to Paris. Only this time we're not going to look at a specific machine. We're going to look at what I can only describe as a movement or a campaign or an initiative. Before I dredge the film from my hard drive, let me just say one thing very quickly. I think most equipment manufacturers want to make things better for their customers. They want to make a profit as well, but I think they want to make things better for their customers. They're constantly striving to make their machines safer, cleaner, more productive, and so on. What you don't see often, however, is equipment manufacturers setting aside their rivalries and coming together for the greater good of the industry. However, there are exceptions, as I'm about to show you. If you bear with me for just a second, because I need to find this on my hard drive. It looks like this.
CEO of Steelrist, manufacturer of tilt rotators, quick couplers, work tools for excavators. And I founded the company together with our CTO like 20 years ago. We started working on these full automatic couplers like in 2016, even before that. But around 2017-18, we started to realize, hey, the world doesn't really need another proprietary solution. What the world they really needs is a standard. We knew that, for instance, Rototilt was working on this, so we got in contact with them to, shouldn't we actually create a standard together? You know, but in the beginning it's quite tough to create a standard, so I mean, we launched the standard in October, November 2020, and now we are more members have come in, and also some of the OEMs have come in. So that's pretty good. In the beginning, it's very, very tricky because actually, you go to your kind of worst competitor and you say, hey, should we do something together? That maybe implies that we actually have to change something in my product and in your product to make it better for the end user. That's a pretty tough discussion, actually. Everybody is buying electrical cars. Okay, imagine if every manufacturer had their own version of the connector. That is mind-blowing. It would be crazy. But this is the way we have it in our industry, which is just not, it's crazy. From the beginning, it was we and Rototilt, and now Kin Software has come on board, and they're contributing a lot, and also S&P was part of it from the beginning. So those are the kind of the main drivers, I would say, in kind of developing the standard. We have a number of OEMs on board already, but then there are also some OEMs that actually deliver things from their factory, but they're not part of the OpenS Alliance yet. But we hope that more will join, actually. We also have had the support from Volvo for a long time. We also have the Kobelco dealer in the Nordic region, which is also very supportive. Will everybody join? It's difficult. I don't think so. Basically, you have two choices. Either you get on board now and ride the wave, or you wait until you have to. Once they understand it, they actually are very much on board. There's a lot of people working. There's a whole engineering team in Steelrist. There's a lot of people also in Rototilt, Kin Software as well. So this is not a one-man thing. It's actually a big team that's done this together, I would say.
couple of things. Going to say good morning to Steve Williamson, who arrived a little bit late because he's been busy, but he does say that was the guy that was showing me the wedding photos. For those of you that don't know, there is photographs of Steve Williamson hanging from his machine on his wedding day. And those photographs have now done the rounds. They've literally gone around the world on Steel Wrist social media platforms. I saw them when I was over in Hamburg with them recently. Let's have a look. But then Steve says, wait, that was me. Were you actually in that video? Were you actually in that video? I'm going to have to go back and watch it again if you were. Please let me know. Thank you for the reminder on the microphone. I think I covered that almost. Chris Ford saying, with the mystery machine, you'll be wanting the serial number next. If I've got people like Andy Lovell competing, I may have to go for that. Demo Dove says, everybody bow down to my marvelousness. I had trouble saying that. Gary Muirhead just saw Stefan Stockhouse and said, my hero. Yes, I remember a time, Gary, when I used to be your hero, but apparently not any longer. Dan Cullen says, I think this should be a regular thing. The whole brand name, bar one until Demo Dove took my guess. Yes, just waiting in the wings and then swoops in and steals the glory. Right, everybody, that's going to pretty much do us for today. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around, do please stay safe. Look after yourselves, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very soon. If you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around because I'll be back with the Craic after a word from our show sponsor, during which we're going to talk about what has made you smile recently, and we may even touch on things like taking into consideration the operator's health when factoring cost per ton. Stick with me. I'll guide you. Take me by the hand. I'll guide you through. Trust me. Here's the final word. Right, let's fire up some music, shall we? What are we going to have today? Should we have a bit of this? We haven't had this one for a while. Yeah, take the. Not bad. Not bad. How are we all doing this fine morning? Let me go over to the comments and start at the very beginning. Let's go back to 8:20 this morning. 1 hour and 40 minutes before I pressed the go button. Mr. Cullen was here. Good morning. Nice and overcast. I don't know. I know a lot of you guys follow Marco Lorini over on LinkedIn. Have you seen his post this morning? Bearing in mind, I was in Bergamo on Monday and Tuesday this week, north of Italy, up in the Lombardy region, and I was walking around, t-shirt, didn't wear shorts, but I had a really, really light pair of strides on. I was sockless because, I was in Italy. Sunglasses on, baseball cap on, all of the things. Look at it now. It's been torrential, and up in the mountains, which is not a million miles away from where we were, they've got snow in the middle of May. What the hell is going on? Global warming, I say. Dan says, good morning. Gary Muirhead, thank you for the question of the day today, Gary. And we will be coming to that in just a moment, but he says, good morning, Mark. Good morning, gang. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday indeed. Dan is on a new ride today. He's on a new JCB. What model have you got, Dan? Let us know in the chat. Chris Ford, morning. Poets Day today. Yes. Pee off early. Tomorrow, Saturday. Indeed. Mark Whiting, Jim Turner, Gaz Evans, all very, very welcome. Yes, going back to the very beginning of the show, and I know some of you arrived a little bit later. I was babbling on, and it was you lot that prompted this, so you have nobody to blame but yourselves. We were talking yesterday about the stresses and strains of working in machines, and I know there was a bit of debate about whether we should all just man up and crack on with it. But just bear with me. My contention was this: basically, is that manufacturers are very good at helping customers calculate, particularly in the mining quarry industry, calculating their cost per ton. So they factor in all of the owning and operating costs of a machine. So it includes the purchase price of the machine, replacement parts, wear parts, fuel, insurance, maintenance, all of those things. are they factoring in the impact that machine is having on the operator that might then lead that operator to be required to take time off work? Now, again, we did mention this yesterday. We were talking about things like wrist strain. We were talking about, in previous shows, we were talking about the impact on your knees, your hips, on your back of getting in and out of the machines. I know Steve Williamson said, by the time he's done 8-9 hours behind the levers, he gets out, his legs ache, his back hurts. Are those things being factored in? I'd love to get your thoughts on that, because I do think there's a discussion to be had. I'm just not entirely sure what the discussion is. Jim Turner, however, says there's damn lies and statistics. Indeed. Employ subbies, he says. If they moan too much, they're easy to get shut off. I'm not saying it's not tiring and stressful at times. Being sat in your arse in a machine is an easy job nowadays, so folks should get on with it or get out of the seat. Yeah, I find that one a hard one to. Bearing in mind the lot of others, I realise you can't compare apples and oranges, but when you think, you've got people in an air-conditioned office with lumbar support chairs, and they have a subsidised canteen to go to. Is it really too much to ask to be able to get in and out of your machine safely and without doing yourself damage? Is it really too much to ask to be able to sit there for 8 hours without causing yourself back or leg issues? Is it too much to ask to be not under the cosh constantly so that you can do the job in the allotted time rather than on the hurry up, which seems to be the absolute standard these days? That's the discussion. Anyway, let me know what you think. Companies don't give two hoots about employees, and I just wonder when I think it might even be on at the moment. I'm ignoring all of these national days and national weeks these days because I don't care for bandwagons, but I think we're talking about mental health awareness. Is it Mental Health Awareness Week or something like that at the moment? And when you talk about mental health awareness, there is somebody always posts statistics on the amount of lost man hours caused by mental health issues in the workplace. I know we've had exactly the same discussion on things like exposure to asbestos and all those sort of things. But what about just regular? I'm not talking about tying it into some, asbestos awareness week or mental health awareness week. I'm just talking about in standard. If you are an average operator on an average machine, how much time, if any, and I might be barking completely up the wrong tree here, how much time per year are you losing to stresses and strains, both physical and mental, that are caused by your machine or by your work environment? I'd love to get your thoughts on it. Now, our question of the day from Mr. Muirhead was that. What has made you smile recently? And as I said, smiled the entire time I was in Bergamo. I'd smile if I went back there again tomorrow as well, even if it was raining. What else have I smiled at? Yep, got to play with the grandchildren yesterday. That's worthy of a smile. But also blocking somebody on LinkedIn last night. Oh, big, broad grin on my face. Big, broad grin on my face because, frankly, some people you're just better off without. Those that claim credit for your work, those that ride on your coattails, get rid. Toxic, get rid. Peter McKenna says, good morning. Dan Cullen, I smile when I wake up with in the morning with birds singing and enjoying life. That's not bad. That's not a bad idea, is it? I'm sure I've mentioned this before, but there was an old boy. We used to have an office back in my PR days. We used to have an office on a landfill site. I say on. It was at the edge of a landfill site. We were actually upstairs of the weighbridge. And it was no longer really a functioning landfill site. They were doing sort of recovery work and stuff like that. So it was quite a nice place to be. And there was an old boy who used to sweep the yard. I reckon he was probably in his 80s. And I arrived at work one morning and found him whistling while he was pushing the broom around the yard. And I said, morning, what you got to be so happy about? And he said, I woke up. If you can wake up with a smile on your face, you're probably doing okay. Dan Cullen says, companies not interested in cab comforts for operators. They want pounds per daily production. Yeah, they do. They do. But I don't know I don't know what the maths is. And maybe that's the bit that I'm missing here. You can, as a company, let's talk about somebody that actually owns machines and employs operators. You can factor in all of the things. So you know the cost of your machine, whether you bought it outright or you've got it on finance. You know how much that's going to cost you. You know how quickly you're going to go through tracks and tires. You have that information to hand. You know how much fuel you'll use. You know how much your insurance is. You know how much your operator's wages are. You know how much replacement teeth are, replacement filters, all of those things. You know everything. But if that machine or your work environment is causing your operators to take time off work with bad backs, bad legs, gimpy wrists, or stress, you have now, deliberately or otherwise, you have factored in an unknown variable in your own figures. That's where my head is. As I say, I wish I'd come to you this morning. I have a dream. I have a plan. I have a fully thought out story. But after the chat yesterday, it's just played on my mind and played on my mind and played on my mind. And I decided, sod it, I'll present it unedited and unexpurgated and just see what you all think. That's where we are. Demo Darv, the winner of today's Mystery Machine, says, well, howdy, partners. Bloody lovely weather here this fine Friday morning. It is here. As I say, it's bloody awful in Italy. Ken Hatcher, who is in Wales, obviously. Bit of a mixed bag, as per usual. Volvo wheel loaders. Tidy, scorching, El Paso hot. Is that a benchmark? Could we now, on the basis that I am now the walrus of demolition, are we going to say that El Paso hot is a new high watermark for all machines? Gary Muirhead has gone for hot as well. Demo Darv has gone for nice little Volvo shovel. Jim Turner says pulled the axles are good, keep the props and linkage well out of the shite. Well out of the shite indeed. If only I could do likewise. However, Christopher does say, didn't make me want to go and buy one. Ken Hatcher also says, it's cold. Going back to our question of the day, my other half, I've just read this right the way through. My other half says, our grandchildren, a clean and tidy house, a full fridge, holidays, and you sometimes. I think she means me rather than you. Just sometimes. I do make a smile sometimes. Generally when I arrive with a glass of wine in my hand, I have to say. There's Andy Dover. We had so many guesses on that machine today. Maybe that's all I need to do. Just find machines with squiffy paint jobs and that'll throw you off the track. I don't know. He then goes back and says, don't get me wrong, it'd be a nice machine to drive. Then again, so are most of the other brands. They are. And I do wonder. I realised I draw the comparison between construction equipment and cars quite regularly, and I realise they largely serve two very different functions. And I realise that a piece of construction equipment is basically production first and everything else second. So in that respect, it is different to a car. But when you look at cars today, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, and I was never a petrol head, but you could see a car in profile, and you would know precisely what it was. You had the wedge shape of the old, what was it called, a TR7? I think it was TR7. You had the bubble shape of a Beetle, and so on down the line. You look at cars in profile now, and they all look exactly the bleeding same. They're either boxy because they're some sort of SUV, or they're sort of wedge-shaped because they're a regular car. Are we at that point now with construction equipment? Have we reached peak excavator? Have we reached peak wheel loader, peak dozer? Are they now all, as is suggested there, most of them are good to drive? Are there exceptions at both ends? Do we have a brand that you think, if it's one of those, if it's a Komatsu, a Liebherr, a Volvo, that will be a cut above? Or are you looking at machines and thinking, if it's one of those, and I'm not going to name names at this end, one of those, it will be worse than everything else on the market? Love to hear from you. So many guesses on today's mystery machine, particularly after we discovered it was a Caterpillar. we got there in the end. I can't actually see the winning entry, but there you are. Gary Muirhead answering his own question here. My family, they make me smile every day. That's a lovely sentiment, Gary. And I listen, I rather hope that's the same for everybody. I have to say, I would agree with that, but my eldest son guaranteed makes me laugh harder than anybody I've ever met. Mainly because he's a pillock, but he does make me laugh harder than anybody else. Let's have a look. We went all, I'm not even going to do all of these, but we went through loads and loads of answers on the machine. I'm just rattling through. Dear Lord. That might actually be the biggest entry we've ever had to a mystery machine. And then we finally got Andy Dalville came up with a Cat 328. Well done, Andy. Steve Williamson arrived. Yes, Stefan Stockhouse, who was one of the founders of Steel Wrist and Gary Muirhead's hero. Yes, this Open S Alliance. I hope that other parts of the industry take note of this. I know he likened the Open S Alliance to developments in electric-powered vehicles. I think he was talking specifically about cars there. But imagine that, if every car had a unique charger. Imagine if I'm in some instances, phones do have unique chargers. It's not customer friendly. It's not helpful. It's not. It doesn't serve anyone. Surely standardization would be a sensible way forward. Now, bearing in mind we are on the cusp, like it or not, we are on the cusp with electric machines. Surely a standardization in terms of chargers, charger cables, charger outputs, that will be a good thing. And then when we get to hydrogen, which will be coming down the road at some point, I would like to think that everyone will have the good sense of standardizing the approach in how we transport hydrogen, how we actually get hydrogen up the pipe of the machine. Because if you don't, anybody with a mixed fleet is going to have a bloody nightmare. So anybody that's developing hydrogen machines, please take a look at the Open S Alliance and learn the lessons, would you? Because there are lessons to be had there. Question of the day. Chris Ford says, the man driving the machine stockpiling loves making the job hard for himself. Yes. How many times have you looked around your workplace and smiled because you are working alongside a certifiable lunatic? Now, stand by your beds, people. Obviously, we've had some big names on the show before. We've got one of the biggest here. Komatsu Europe just joined us over on Instagram. Good morning, Komatsu Europe. And thank you for your hospitality over at Intermat. Thank you for putting on such a fantastic display. Thank you for being here today. Lovely to see you. Huge admirer of all things Komatsu. Lovely to see them here. Let's have a look. The Cat 328 is an American spec machine, not in the UK catalogue. I didn't claim it was. I mean, I didn't know that, but yeah. Hence why I didn't get anywhere near. Yeah, okay. Let's have a look. Back to work now because Dan Cullen's leaving us. Have a wonderful weekend, guys. Still listening. Thank you very much indeed. Steve Williamson says, I wouldn't say it's an easy job. Can be stressful and tiring, and you're focused all the time. Nothing easy. And then GPS responsibilities. Yeah. See, let me tell you a very quick story because I think it leads us into the point that Steve has made there very, very well. When I first started carting around a video camera, doing the thing that I do, I was unique. Nobody else was doing it. Everybody else had a box brownie. They were taking photographs because they were all focused on producing magazines. I decided that video was the future, or YouTube was the future, and Facebook was the future. So I decided, let's go all in on video. So I started using video. Some of the other publishing companies saw me doing that and thought, we are in danger of being left behind here. So I know one publisher went out and bought a pretty expensive video camera for one of their editors and gave it to him and said, next time you're out and about, make sure you get some film because it is the future. He refused. And he refused on the basis that, I've not been taught to do this. That's not the job I signed up for. if I am required to not just write articles, but now edit video as well, that's additional time. I am not going to do it unless there is some kind of remuneration. Factor that in now, as Steve Williamson has said there, GPS responsibilities. Now, we all understand GPS and its ability to put more precision into work and that kind of thing, and its ability to record everything that's been going on so that you've got a permanent record of exactly what was done. But you now have individual operators who are effectively, and I know they always have been, but there is evidence to support it now, they are individually responsible for the precision on that job. Did anyone sign up for that? Listen, I'm going to put this in very plain language. I realise there is much more to what you guys do than just digging holes. But if you learn to drive a mini excavator or a MIDI excavator, your job is to go and get muck from there to over there, or from over there to over there. You dig holes, you move material. Now all of a sudden, with the advent of telematics and with the advent of GPS, you are now personally responsible-ish for the quality of, the foundations of a house, the wearing course of a road, the base course of a railway, all of those things, because it is being logged. Now, I'm not saying that anybody's going to come back and prosecute you, because I don't believe that is possible. But you now have an additional responsibility, because you know full well every single action that you do in a machine with telematics and GPS is being monitored and recorded. Has anyone, as Steve has said there, has anyone ever sat back and gone, I didn't sign up to that? I was just presented with a machine that had that kind of equipment on it, and I've just had to roll with it. That is an additional stress, exactly as Steve says. Chris Ford says, backache, knee hurts, hips hurting sounds like a normal day without driving a machine. Anybody that's done a 10-hour shift on a JCB 6D, you'd know what aches and pains were. I was in my teens then. Yeah, listen, please don't get me wrong. I think there has been probably greater developments in the level of operator comfort and protection than there has been in pretty much any other aspect of machine development. I think there's been a really big revolution in the cleanliness of engines with tier 3, 4, 5, and ultimately the switch to electric and to hydrogen. But you think, when I'm up in Eskilstuna in a couple of weeks' time, I'm going to the Monktail Museum. I've been there before. It's brilliant. You look at some of the machines from the 50s and the 60s, you as an operator would be sat on a wooden bench. And not only would you be sat on a wooden bench, you'd have a sodding grey engine roughly here. Where you can see my flashing lights in the background, that would be a throbbing engine. Hugely, hugely loud. I mean, like a Motorhead concert in the back of your head the entire time you were working. We've made enormous strides. Is it enough? Is it enough? Peter McKenna says, we aren't in the Victorian era anymore. We aren't slaves. We should have relative comfort. It's not too much to ask. We shouldn't be pushed to breaking point. If it wasn't for the plant operators, construction companies wouldn't be a thing. Just like plant ops would be buggered if there were no truck drivers. It's very true. I was listening to a podcast, and that kind of helped fuel the discussion we're having today. Listening to a podcast, and this is how far we've come. And I realise I'm an old fart. I know I'm knocking on in years, and my best years are way in the rearview mirror. When I first started as a journalist, I used to go out for the day. Go to a site or go to meet a manufacturer or a dealer or whatever it might be. Drive there, do what I need to do, take some photographs, write some notes, and then drive back. And I basically had a rule. It wasn't my company's rule, it was my rule. If I got back to roughly my home area after about 3 o'clock, I went home. Never went back to the office. Back in the day, no one knew. I know we all did it, but no one knew, So there was no mobile phones. My car wasn't being tracked. I didn't have things like emails to answer because this was pre-email and everything else. So I kind of controlled my own day. Think about my job today, or, you know, a job very similar to mine. Not only am I monitored while I'm in the office, if I'm abroad, I'm still expected to answer my emails from my boss or from my colleagues. I've got a mobile phone that tracks me everywhere I go, so people could, out of hours, weekends, on holiday, you can still receive text messages, WhatsApp messages, email messages. I didn't sign up for that, but that is the modern world in which we live. That is an additional thing that we now have to worry about. And I realise there is always a temptation to go with the flow and say, you know, modern or younger people today are snowflakes. But if somebody had said to you, it said to me, I'll use me as an example. If somebody had said to me around about 1989, we were about to give you a laptop computer, but as a result of you having a laptop computer, you will not be working from 9 till 5 anymore. You will be working 6:30 till 11 at night, and you don't get holidays anymore because we can still contact you. I'd have said, well, thanks for that. And here's your laptop back. I don't want it. Thank you very much. I want no part of that. That was a discussion that never happened. We have exactly the same thing. You know, I for all of the benefits, I think telematics are an incredible tool. But do you honestly think that you don't have your employers looking at, you know, 4:30? That machine seems to be stopped. He's working 400 miles away, but he doesn't seem to be moving. What's going on there? Get on the phone. It might be that you've gone for a pee, but that is the situation we have now. Question of the day, what made you smile? Seeing how happy the kids were handing out our caps at Intermat, a woman started crying. She was so happy. Really? You made a woman cry? I'm filling up myself here a bit. That is, I tell you what, that would make your day, wouldn't it? And when you get to see that sort of thing, I remember coming back. I was coming back from, I can't even remember where we'd been, but I was at the airport with Graham Black from Earth Movers magazine, and there was we'd been given some baseball caps, and there was a little boy sat there, and I was chatting to Graham, and we were showing each other baseball caps and stuff, and this little boy was clearly fascinated. So I spoke to his mum and said, look, I've got a baseball cap here. Would your little boy like it? She said, yeah. So made his day. Absolutely made his day. It didn't cost me anything. I don't suppose it cost the company in question more than about 50p. Made his day. What's not to love about that? Most of my stresses is the workers around me. No clue, or 2 ducks given. Thank you for managing the language there. Steve says, company I work for fit the premium chairs for comfort. Health checks every 6 months. Brilliant pay package. Nice fans. Makes your day so much better. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. Peter McKenna says, you're 100% right. That's really the case. Good morning, Komatsu, says Steve Williamson. Question of the day. What makes you smile? Just to die happy. Peter, don't go anywhere yet. We like you. Stick around, would you? There's a nice fella. The tech companies wouldn't make any money if everything was standardized. I take that on board, and certainly things like iPhone chargers and Samsung chargers, all of that. I'd fully take that on board. But I had a situation when I was over in. Where was I? I was Hamburg. When I was over in Hamburg with Steel Wrist a month or two ago. If you remember rightly, I got stranded. So I was only expected to be there for about 36 hours, and I ended up being there for something like 72. So I'd taken enough underwear for a couple of days. I'd taken enough shirts for a couple of days. I'd taken my mobile phone charger, my camera charger, but I'd taken my laptop, but not the laptop charger, because I don't use the laptop while I'm actually with Steel Wrist. I might use it in the evening to check the emails or whatever it might be. So I was only going to be using it for an hour out of maybe 36 hours. I ended up being there for 4 days. I didn't have a charger. So I went down to the reception of the hotel I was staying in and said, I don't suppose by any chance your lost property has an iMac or a MacBook charger. Turns out they did, but rather than the woman trying to find it, she gave me a box. Let me think. The box would have been, let me get over a bit, that big by about that deep. Huge bloody thing. Probably would have got an old style TV in it, and it was full of chargers or charger cables of some description or another. And I reckon, off the top of my head, I reckon there was at least a dozen different types in there. Wouldn't it have been easier if, at least for me, if somebody had said, yeah, we're going to standardise on chargers. One for your phone that also works your watch, also works your computer or whatever it might be. And just go down to reception. Have you got a charger cable? There you go. Fantastic. Happy days. The line in the sand has been drawn. Watch out for a link belt or John Deere excavator soon. There's a thought. Dan Cullen says, what I don't like in this JCB is no adjustable armrest, solid plastic. Not my cup of tea, says Dan Cullen. And again, I think this plays back to the thing I was saying earlier, where we've now, and I don't actually believe we have reached peak excavator, but we're pretty close. There is very little to choose. If you took a 20-ton excavator from any of the top dozen brands, there'd be very, very little to choose between them. Which means that you then tend to focus on those little tiny things. Like when Matey earlier in the show was talking about his Hyundai, the crushing company were talking about their Hyundai. They mentioned the fact that it's got a decent radio in it. Nobody buys an excavator for the quality of the radio, but we now accept that the engine will be good, the undercarriage will be good, the transmission will be good, the access for maintenance will be good, the seating will be pretty good, the cab will be good. So we then start to nitpick like that. No adjustable armrests, which I'm sure to the manufacturer, not a big deal. I'm sure to the people that actually specified that machine, not a big deal. And there you've got Dan Cullen, who was literally first day on a new machine gone, well, that's not good. That's not as good as the machines I'm used to. Jim Turner says, I do this job because I find it easy, enjoyable and well paid. If that ever changes, I'll stop doing it. Steve says that we get a really good wage due to the GPS. Enough to make the additional stress disappear? I'm asking. I'm not stating a fact. Chris Ford says, the 70s saw the greatest advances in operator comfort in all vehicles, which is continued to this day. That is the one good thing. What is that expression? A rising tide raises all the boats. Something like that. That is the one good thing. If Caterpillar improve the comfort in a 20-ton excavator, Komatsu, Volvo, Liebherr, Hitachi, all the others have no choice but to follow suit and possibly go a little bit further. And then when they, maybe the next generation, maybe the Liebherr comes out first, and the Liebherr has taken that benchmark and raised it to there, in which case Caterpillar, Hitachi, Volvo now have no choice but to meet or exceed that standard. So there has been an incremental improvement. I totally agree with that. Demo Darv says, High Ridge Arm about to go on. I'll get some photos. Please do. And please, if you're going to do that, do it in that format. That format, not that. I don't want vertical. Looks crap on this show. Dan Khan says, I get 500 messages a day. Try that. Well, I get more than 100 emails. Not all of them need answering. In fact, an awful lot of them just need unsubscribing. But I get 100 plus. I have to admit, I've got very, very disciplined with these sort of things. There are those that I consider to be urgent or worthwhile that I'll respond to pretty much as they arrive. But I've got very, very good at parking emails. And I sit there when the Queen of Demolition puts on some shite on the TV of an evening, I just open up the email and go through and manage the ones that I couldn't be bothered to do during the day. So if you receive an email response from me at sort of 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, you'll know I didn't consider it to be important. probably shouldn't have given you that glimpse behind the curtain, but I did. Everybody, that is pretty much all there is to say for this week. I'm going to be back here on Monday. We do actually have a full week of shows next week, which is good news. So yes, go have a good weekend. Please have a good weekend. Look after yourselves. Be back here next week. Try not to be too stressed. Try to not have a bad back, bad arm, bad knee or bad hip. I'll take care of that for you. I'm a man of a certain age. All of those things come as part of the job. So everybody, go have a fantastic weekend. Smile if you're with your friends, among family, or just smile generally. Smile at people in the street. You have no idea how much it freaks them out. Chris Ford says, off topic a little, some women are asked what they would do if they were a man for one day. One replied, get someone to kick me in the balls to see if it's as painful as childbirth. I have a theory on that. Ladies, if you're listening, come at me. Come at me. Women, my wife as an example, my wife gave birth, she gave birth to 4 children, but because we were twins, she gave birth 3 times. She went back for more. She deliberately went back to do it again. Show me a man that has ever been kicked in the nards and said, I'll do that again if you don't mind. Never happened. Never in the history of the world has that happened. Kicking the knackers, way worse. I'm sticking my neck out here. Prove me wrong. And before you do, I'm going. See you later, people. Have a good weekend. All the best.